Hello students, today I am going to start a new chapter in English for class 11th. The title is Landscape of the Soul. It's chapter number 4 and it's written by Nathalie Treveroy. Okay, let us know something about the author. Nathalie Treveroy is an art historian who came in limelight because of her translated work, that is City of Zins. She now plans to write a next book on old Delhi architecture like Jama Masjid and Chandni Chowk. Now, what is there actually in this chapter? Let's know about its introduction. Landscape of Soul, this chapter, compares Chinese view of art to the European view of art with examples. Means the chapter is giving examples, citing examples to differentiate between two different arts, Chinese view of art and European view of art. Viewing any piece of art is actually a landscape of one's soul. How do you view any piece of creative art? That is landscape of our soul. The classical Chinese painters do not intend to produce an exact copy, means they do not imitate anything. They want the spirit behind the work to be thought of. So the classical Chinese painters do not intend to produce an exact copy of the landscape. They want their viewers to see spirit behind their work. What actually they want to mean through their work. What actually they want to show to the viewers. It is conceptual that is painted, means the Chinese hold the view that there are only concepts that are painted, okay, but the European artists try to create a perfect imitation, exact copy of what is there. Okay, now let us study it point wise. The very first point is story of Chinese painting. Chinese painting. Now, there is a wonderful story about the painter of China, Wu Daozi, who lived in 18th century. His last painting was of a landscape and the Tang Emperor Zhuanggong commissioned it to decorate one of his palace wall. The emperor admired the scene of forest, waterfalls, clouds, etc. that were there in that landscape that the painter Wu Daozi has drawn or made, had created. Now the painter requested the emperor to look in the cave in the painting in which there lived a spirit. Now he wanted that the emperor should look in the cave and he wanted to see that there is a spirit in that. Actually it was not visible, but he wanted. The painter clapped. The cave opened. He entered in to show its inside to the emperor, but the door closed behind him. Before the emperor realized what had happened, the painting vanished from the wall. Nothing was seen later of that painter. So this is a story about the Chinese painting. Now stories important in Chinese education. How stories are important, or why stories are important in Chinese education. Actually, stories like that, the previous one that I have narrated, such stories played an important part in Chinese classical education. The books of Confucius and that of Zhuangai are full of them, means full of stories. They reveal the spirit of that art behind, means the art behind thought. There is another story also about a painter. He did not draw the eye of a dragon that he had painted. So that is also there in the textbook. It is better that you once go through the textbook. The next point is European stories. European stories. Now, the story is about, this story, European story is about Quentin Metzger. This story explains European appreciation of perfection or perfect imitation of any art. Metzger was actually a blacksmith who loved a painter's daughter. The painter was reluctant to accept a blacksmith as his son-in-law. Okay. Quentin Metzger loved the European painter's daughter, but as he was blacksmith, so that painter was not ready to accept him as his son-in-law. So one day Metzger stole into that artist's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel. It was such a perfect imitation that the artist took it for real. He agreed to give away his daughter to Metzger, who later became a great artist. So this is European story. Now the next point is comparison between Chinese and European paintings. Comparison between European and Chinese paintings. Now, in the Chinese story, the emperor commissioned a painting and appreciates its outer appearance, but the artist, the one who has drawn it, actually shows the true meaning of his work. Okay, he shows him the cave where to enter from. A classical Chinese landscape does not reproduce an actual view as a Western figurative painting would do. Okay, the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look at the painting through him. The Chinese painting is not so. You can enter it from any point. You can look the painting in the way you want. So this is the difference actually. The Chinese painting is actually realistic in sense, and the European paintings are imitation. Okay, so we'll continue this chapter in the next